from Hong Kong. And right now I'm working in a textile company, which is my family business. So I travel quite a lot during the year to Europe, to US, to China, and basically half of the time is out of Hong Kong. So I do like what I do right now because it's quite challenging. You're meeting people from all over the world and you're facing challenge from your technical part too. So I'm very eager in the textile business. I actually grew up in Hong Kong, and since primary school to university, I spent all the study and schooling in Hong Kong. So I graduated from the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, majoring in business administration. So that's how I start my career as auditor. And then after 2 years, I proceed to textile business. Went back to like 10 years ago, that is the time when we met in 2010, when the social entrepreneurship isn't that popular in Hong Kong, but it's already quite a trendy business in the US or in Western countries. So it is the first time that we are chosen to join a Chinese social entrepreneurship program to the US. Seems like it's a Pacific University, right? If I remember correctly. And we learned how to run a social entrepreneurship and what is it inside the enterprise, what is the meaning and how does it different from other business. And that's how I also meet you, Clive, and be a friend for 10 years. Yeah. After that training, I was very eager to learn about how SE, so social entrepreneurship, impact the world. So I was chosen to join the Bill Clinton University initiative in Miami. And at that time, I met a lot of people from all walks of life who has their own social entrepreneurship or they want to start one to communicate and share how we can do as a part active growth in this aspect. So there was investors interested in, but I didn't do it. But now I see Hong Kong is doing it quite well. That is growing some greens or agriculture along the rooftop of Hong Kong buildings. And that is my project ideas in 2010. And I see, even I'm not the one who started this in Hong Kong, but I had this idea. And I find that many buildings nowadays in Hong Kong are doing the same thing. That is, they can grow something green to reduce the carbon dioxide emission, and also they can grow some eatable vegetables for themselves. And I'm happy to see that it happens somehow. And thank you, Clive, for bringing me to the Dragon 100 program. You are so eager to bring the youth to a bigger world, and Dragon 100 is a program that I get to know a lot of elites of Chinese origin around the world, because they elect 100 delegates per year from around the world, and we built a lot of friendships there. In the past 10 years, every year we have 100. So all in all, the maximum number of people you already know is already 1,000 friends around the world. So when you travel somewhere, you have some ideas or business, you got to get them in, and they are very willing to share with you. And I'm thankful to being a part of Dragon, that I can learn a lot from higher than what my same age should have seen. And this is how I grow so fast from being a member there. From a Hong Kong education system, we are quite obedient, right? We have some rules and frames. Since if you look back to our education system in the past 20 years, we have a lot of like sample articles, like memorization and something like that. We are not trained to be quite creative, but as a followers, more like a follower, so obedient people. So at that time, I just want to be like an ordinary Hong Kongese, find a job, a good job, get well paid, live an ordinary life. That is childhood thinking. But when I grow older, then I think I need to return to my family to help because father being getting old and he has developed the company um, three times larger right now. We're still growing the company, still buying machines this year despite the COVID-19. So I just can't let my father do all the things for the family and I do nothing to help him. So that's why I later on joined the family. Somehow I don't feel the same pressure as I did at school, at university. I was quite pressurized at schooling because I always want to be the top academically. But after I joined the Society for Work and joined the first Big Four firm, I was actually the lowest associate, right? You can imagine that you don't have much responsibility, you just finish your homework, your spreadsheet. And that's quite relaxing for me mentally. You just have to suffer from the late night sleep, but that doesn't matter at that time when we were still young. I do have a very warm family, a very supportive parents. They give me all the things I want since childhood, and basically, I may not know actually how the poor is living in a poor countries or how poor their lives are. Until recent years, I travel around the world. I travel to many places that those are not tourist spots. Those are very poor area, factory areas, and maybe you even don't know their names. Even we are very high educated international people. But I see how poor these countries are compared to Hong Kong and China somehow. And I realized that I have been living in such a very cherished, lucky land of Hong Kong. We have everything. There's no trauma, there's no climate tsunami or like earthquake and something like serious. We are very safe here with very convenient transportation and workplace. So I see myself as a very lucky one. Since my family is good and what I'm living is a good place. So I try to give myself and to empathize, show my empathy to people who are actually poorer or less prestigious. And if I have the chance or have the time, I'm actually willing to give my experience to them. So, but I don't mean I have a very smooth life. I do have ups and downs. School life is pretty much quite smooth because I don't have any pressure by the family or my parents. They don't have expectation that I have to be high top students. But during life and work, you definitely you face difficulties. Like you have your partner's difficulty and you have your job difficulty facing the clients from different nationalities that can be challenging too. But that is not uncommon. I have to tell myself that is a common thing. People have to face death, difficulty, loss, everything like that. And you are just encountering similar things as them. Just different extent, but similar. Everyone is doing and encountering similar things. That is human being. So I learned from my obstacles that I'm not really that difficult. My life has been very lucky already. And so I try to be more positive and encourage myself whenever I encounter something which is, to myself, I feel it is big, but maybe just common things. And even my father has been doing a business when I was very little. He's not always at home. Definitely maybe just 1 or 2 days per month. But when you look at him as a model, role model, you learn his strength. I think it's a role model of parents. And my mother, as being a full-time mom, has been very caring and she spent time with us when we were childhood. And I think parenting is one of the key points that you learn from them how to be strong in face of obstacles. And when I feel obstacles, they are there to be with you. That is very important. You have someone supporting you, and you learn them, and you learn that you're not alone, and you are not that weak. After that wave or that loop, you suddenly become realizing that life is not that difficult as you face. And they're just so positive that they just not only giving out themselves, they know what they're doing as a human being for the world. And that is what I respect so much and appreciate so much. So I've got a lot of role model friends around me, and that is why I can be strong. If you look back to Chinese companies, mainly the management level are males or oriented, because they are more laid back. They feel that business or management should be by powerful men. So when I joined the company, most top managers, okay, or we call it vice presidents of every department, they are all males. When I joined it as an outsider, not from Hong Kong, was treated like a non-Chinese, non-mainland city. So they're kind of not easy to accept a woman or young woman, lady, going to instruct them to do their own ways of working. So that is quite challenging at that time, because you know nothing technically, and you have to manage them, and they are afraid that you manage them, you change them, and you finally replace them. So that is, yeah, it's a difficult time, and you have to let them know you are there to expand the company in a different way, not to replace them somehow. Pretty much a let go style, freestyle, because I don't like to make things very hands-on or in control. I try to give my coworkers or subordinates a lot of freedom, time, or flexible working hours, or flexible working places. And as long as they can finish their work on time or up to my requirement, actually I'm fine to give them more freedom and automation. I don't know why, but since I was small, you know my Chinese name, I have a very cute Chinese name, and very similar to a Hong Kong artist. And when I was small, people call my surname, Ronnie, because of my cute name. And at that time, I become a spotlight at school. And I get used to that spotlight, but it doesn't make me feel like very over proud. I don't feel that it's something over proud, because I believe that people with higher talent are a lot more outside the world. So I don't always feel too proud of myself. I remain quite humble. And just now you said I'm approachable. I feel the same. I don't know why, but when I join some new events and I meet a stranger and they're willing to share some of their secrets, I don't know why, but somehow I encountered something like this in recent years. Maybe I'm a lot more reliable, or I can keep secrets. Yeah, but I think I look like I'm an approachable person, and I'm willing to listen to people and give a two-way communication and feedback. When you grow up in Hong Kong, you're quite simple mindset. You have I think Hong Kongese have a very simple mindset, and they don't feel complicated about the human relationships or working relationships. Even we have office politics in Hong Kong, but in China, people are more complicated, and they are not all well educated. Some doesn't receive a good education, some are from villages, and some even don't have university degree, and they don't have a mindset of what kind of corporation or brands they want to create in the future. So you have to input a lot of new ideas, which to them is not necessary. Yes, they just think you can. I can manage well the company. I can manage well the factories, and that's my job. I don't need to think forward how a company is going to be developed. So need to change them to be more long-term visioned, and to be more in the step of the company visioned. So that is the hard time because their educational level or cultural level is not the same or in alliance. Even now we have to do it like 10 days, once every 10 days, that we have to change how they feel about the work, change how they think about the customers, the suppliers, and the world, the markets, everything we have to keep inputting. Otherwise, they will easily like switch focus. Yes, and talking about even not the top management, we talk about the workers, they are smarter than years ago. They know how to seek legal advice. They know somebody from the government officials. So if you imagine you have 1,000 workers and everyone has one question to you every day, so you have 1,000 questions a day. So it's not the same as a commercial business. It's quite tedious work. Experience my previous work as auditors that I got to audit factories. So I put that kind of system into my own factory. That is what we call the internal audit. So if you understand it, it is try to manage every process of a factory or production to a standard level. So I input that when I join the company, and when I go back to factories every month, so I will try to implement that plan and write report to them, and they slowly learn my system, and they try to input their own, and they build their own team for doing the same work as me. Wow. And actually I do it on my own first because I have to be hands-on at that time. I need to do what I want them to do, so I do it myself first. So I write them the report, what I check, what's wrong with their work, and they find the routine I'm doing, and they gradually learn the same thing from me. Because when some people, when they're too into their job, they can't see what outsiders see, if you agree that. Because they have some blind spot, like you're driving a car, there's some blind spot. And same for us, if we are too into the same job, we somehow not very conscious about something different. But when you are outsider, when you go visit sometimes, and you will realize something is not the right thing. So they will know what to change. Actually, when in the Chinese Lunar New Year, we usually do not stop our production. Every year we just run the machines as usual. So because our workers are mainly in the same area, same villages and county. So basically, we don't want to stop the machine. And this year is quite special. Before I leave for Hong Kong for the Chinese New Year, I actually didn't know about the conflict or any news about that. But some of my friends said they know something in Shenzhen in the beginning of January. And they're doing Chinese medicine production and they try to stock in more medicine, and now they're selling quite well. But in my case, because I don't stop it and I still run the machines during the holiday, and when the COVID-19 news was spread out in late January, we are quite surprised because the whole mainland China was locked down. The lockdown situation is not the same as what we see in Hong Kong or Western countries. They are more like really, really force people to stay at home. And even every villages, every road, they have roadblocks, and they have to measure the temperature by the government officials. And they also need to buy food, and the government official only allow only one of them to buy food once every 2 days. So at that time, because my product is yarns, textile yarns, if you know it, you put the yarn and you sew it into fabrics, to a hosiery or socks, something like that. Coincidentally, my product can be developed to be used as an ear loop of facial mask. We can change a little bit the machines, and then they can be used for producing the ear loop. And so in the whole county, there's no corporation allowed it or factory allowed it to be open at that time by the government officials, but only us and one of the facial mask manufacturer. So that keeps for 2 months time because the officials didn't allow anyone to start their factories. And we are lucky enough to continue doing it because we can produce that ear loop. Yes, but it doesn't mean our ordinary business wasn't affected at that time. It was down by at least 50%. Transportation was hard, shipment was hard, and you know, all our customers are all closed. If many people thought at that time we should be making facial masks instead, right? That is the earning point because there are so many people switching to that business. But from our company perspective, we want something is more long-term. We don't want something short-term. You buy the machine of facial mask and then you suddenly useless after a year or 2 years. We don't want to go into that kind of business. So we think about how our yarns, because our yarn is elastic, so how our yarns can be done in part of the facial mask. And somehow we're producing the elastic and that fit in. And it turns out to be an okay product. Record high prices and you have to pay in order to get the goods. So at that time it's like a chaos, really like a chaos. You have to switch a lot of machines for that product, but after 2 or 3 weeks, it cools down suddenly. So there are two waves from February to April, there are 2 waves. It is not a very continuous business, but it's like a wave because after the Chinese official government applied the new law that only the certified mask can be exported. Chinese companies who is not up to the standard are closed.
I see.
So suddenly the demand for this kind of product decreased. But luckily, after June, we pick up some of our ordinary business. So we just sell a little bit the ear loop right now. You know, people, when they don't go out, they don't wear the pantyhoses, they don't wear textile products. We are mainly in the area of socks and pantyhoses. And if you don't go out, you don't go to office, flight attendants don't go to work, no flights. So that kind of demand decreased a lot for us. So it's a bad business. Overall, it's a very bad business, but our customers still running for stock. And they still do the live broadcast to get some of their stocks sold. So if you want to sell something, you try to invite someone or you try to do a live broadcast and that boosts their sales. Because we are used to getting busy, getting full for our daily work. Somehow you lost everything, like you are very free, you got lots of time. So first of all, you have to learn to be patient. Be patient with your work, your clients, with yourself, because there's nothing you can do to change what the macro environment is happening. You have to accept the fact that you have to wait. That is a lot of talking to yourself. You have to wait, you have to be patient. Yes, at that time, this is one of the advice. The other thing is, I guess you have to know what's happening in the world and yourself, because when the world is changing so fast, you have to know what you have to do for your future. For example, what other thing you can invest right now for securing your future better. Besides your job, any other things you want to invest for yourself. So you have to think for it, because if you're individual, you have to think for yourself. If you have a family, you have to think for your family. So you have to try everything in a longer term, because the world is changing so fast. You see the politics, you see the world is different climatically. So you have to think forward. And the third thing is, I think you have to learn more yourself. Like you study different kinds of things, but not everyone is willing to learn up to a certain age. they are more fulfilled with their own career now or current career. But if you suddenly lost your job or get cut off or laid off, then you have to think, what should I do in the same industry, or do I have an opportunity to change to another industry? Or the same industry is no longer the same perspective as before. Like many things will be changed or replaced by robots in the future. So you might lose your job too. So at that time, you have to think what things you're interested in, you're willing to learn, to cultivate yourself, or learn for yourself for the future possible change. Very strangely, I have a brother, a little brother, and he's now in China, mainland China, Zhejiang. And my father is in Fujian. Yes, and my mother and I are in Hong Kong. So when I don't have to travel, I stay in Hong Kong or China. But when I travel, you can imagine we are actually in 4 places at least, always a year-round time. So we are always separated. How do we keep that close relationship is we value our family members as the most important people in our lives. That you have to keep in mind that what you have right now is given by your parents, and you don't, not always by your own effort, because you don't have that thing at the beginning. You're given to grow a finite amount of treasure. So you have to be thankful for what you have at the beginning. And you put your family as the most important people in your life. And whatever you do, you think about them first. So that is what I do. So even we are separated into 4 places or cities, we keep like communicating one or 2 times a day. So updating each other what's happening in your side and something like that. And even some big celebration, we don't actually celebrate together too. But we only get together in Chinese New Year. That's the traditional. Other festivals, we are always apart. So you may feel quite strange how we build a strong family like that. Because we are so united, we think we are all important people of each other. In the past, we used to call the long distance calls. When my brother was in the UK, we talk a lot through phones back into 10 years ago. There's no WhatsApp, no WeChat, there's no free calls. But now we have the social media app that helps a lot. You share things, you make calls, you make fun. I do find a different generation mindset from our generation to the newer generations, because I do have coworkers who are from 90s or the thousands generations, this Y-set generations. I do find it different because they are more concerned about their own. That is not a bad thing. I would say that is not a bad thing, because when you concentrate on your own, you focus on what you really are, what you like, and you go forward with your own road. You don't think too much how others look at you. It's quite different from my generation, because my generation, the 80s, we are more concerned about how others look at us, achievements or appearance or everything, or comments. We are more concerned about sharing. We like to share. We don't want to be selfish. We want to be treated like we are humble, we're willing to share, we're willing to contribute, which is quite different from the newer generations. But I don't think that is a good or bad thing. This is just one characteristic of our generation. So from new generation, when children are more self-focused, or they decide themselves more, parents should let them grow up freely. I know there's a very pressurized education system when they're just 1 year old or 10 months old, even going to playgroup, because I have so many friends giving birth recent years. And I look at them and I listen to them. They're looking for a playgroup kindergarten with parents interview too. So I believe that to have a healthy brought up, parents' time is very important. You don't always give all the time of playing, but you bring him or her to see the world. I mean, you just don't put him with toys, but you put your kids to see the world, but not to the popular tourist spots. Try to go to some of the inner cities of a country, then you will see what a city is really like, what a country is really like. When we go to traveling, we always go to tourist spots, go to the iconic spots. That is not the real face of a country. You have to go to a different perspective of a country. Then your child will see a better worldview, and they will be more likely to treasure what they have. And they will be more likely to give their hands without calculating the benefits or advantages. Resilience is something like challenge, or what the challenge from God. When God gives you a challenge, it is challenge manageable. You can manage it. There's nothing beyond your ability. So I think challenge is never a challenge. It's not a challenge. It means something you can learn and you encounter and you become more powerful. So resilience to me is a self-training. It's like a mountain. You see a mountain with a certain height, but maybe after crossing that mountain, you see a higher mountain and you keep crossing it. You think, oh, that's not difficult. You can cross every mountain and you can cross every river, no matter how wide it is. As long as you can swim and you have a boat, you can do anything you can. Or yeah, that's so resilience is actually a self training, a self realization of the world and yourself.